Meeting is in session. Roll call. Danny Saron, our attorney, is on the line.
Ms. Lever,
Here.
Ms. Strasburger,
Here.
Ms. Leach,
Here.
Mr. Doma, Ms. McCormick Barron,
Here.
Mr. Bay,
Here.
Mr. Fishbach,
Here.
Mr. Irwin,
Here.
Mr. Konka. Madam Chair, we have a quorum and a reminder that we met beforehand.
Session to discuss legal, personnel, and educational issues, and the votes were taken. With that, we'll see if there's anybody here for anybody who would like to comment to the board. All right. It's from June 29th, 2026. Do we have a motion? Second?
Second.
Any changes or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Ed Barca, Finance Report.
Morning, Chair, members of the board. Included in your board packet is the finance report as of June 30th, 2026. Receipts in June totaled $22.1 million. That is about $1 million lower than the budget for the month. However, I will note that collections so far in July have been very strong. So this indicates really a timing of payments issue more than a under collections issue. And obviously we'll continue to monitor that just to ensure that is the case. Year-end receipts are projected to be $279.6 million, which is about $1.8 million or 0.6% below the budget for the year. Departmental operating expenditures through June 30th, 2026 totaled $60.4 million. That represents about 38.1% of the budget for the year. The capital expenditures through that same period totaled over $110 million, marking the strongest first half of the year that we've seen in recent history. So we're seeing that continued capital investment into our system. $49.4 million in debt service costs have been paid through June 30th, 2026, and that represents about 47.4% of the budget. And year-end debt service costs are projected to be $103.6 million, about $666,000 lower than the budget for the year, so more or less on target for what we had budgeted. Next, I want to make the board aware of an award we recently received the Distinguished Budget Award by the Government Finance Officers Association, otherwise known as the GFOA. And this award was for our 2026 capital and operating budgets. And this marks the second consecutive year that we received this award. Just to give some context, to earn this award, the budget must meet over 85 different specific criteria, which can include information on organizational charts, strategic goals, the budgeting process, financial policies, financial projections, revenue and expense reports within that. So it's a standard that, we started to set, last year in 2025 in that budget. We're going to continue that forward, obviously, in 26 and even moving forward beyond that. It's a standard that I want to have in place, just for the authority for those reasons. And the benefit of that is really it promotes transparency to our ratepayers. And how their dollars obviously spent and allocated within our budgets. And as a reminder, our budgets are available on our website. Let me just read the site here at pgh20.com/about-us/finance if the public wanted to tune in for that or to take a deeper look and see what we have to offer on that front. With that, this concludes my report for today. So I'll turn it back over and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed, and congratulations on the recognition.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I do have a question. There was one line on the finance report that I would like for you to give us some context on.
Sure.
It said that half of the under collection amount is attributable to the Penvest water charge, which can be adjusted to recover under collection in 26. I could not put that together.
Sure. So
what that is and how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll give some context. So the Penvest charges that we have deployed, there's one for water and one for wastewater. And the intent of those is to recover the debt service costs that we pay to Penvest for water and wastewater projects. The charge itself, by regulation of the PUC, can be adjusted twice a year, February 1st and August 1st. And the intent of those adjustments, if we want to move forward with them, is to align the charge with the cost that we're paying. So that could either increase the charge or decrease the charge, depending on the actual cost that we're incurring throughout the year. So the intent of that comment in the report is that we're incurring more water cost, debt service costs on the Penvest side than we're actually charging via the charge, right? So it's a reconcilable charge that if we don't make that delta up by the end of this year, we'll reconcile it up in the beginning of next year to recover those costs. So you can almost think of it as kind of like a rolling reconciliation, if you will, just to make sure that we're charging the appropriate amounts for what our costs are.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Engineering Department report, Rachel Beam.
Good morning, Chair Leber, members of the board. You have some slides. Today, I'm going to start by highlighting our catch basin and inlet replacement program. These contracts involve the strategic replacement of our catch basins and inlets to address structural issues and improve our stormwater collection. This has been an annual program with 2 contracts since 2017. In 2024, we had 3 contracts due to some increased funding. In 2026, we had 1 contract due to decreased funding, so we adjust those based on the funding that we have available. Pittsburgh Water received Penvest funding in the amount of $46 million for the 2023 program through 2023 through 2026 program. An additional request for $12.5 million will be submitted for the 2027 contract year, with a potential of 3 contracts for an estimated replacement of 600 basins. So as shown in this table, we replaced 736 basins in 23, 526 in 2024, and so on, with those 2027 figures being estimates at this time. And just for some context, there are approximately 22,700 catch basins in our system. The city's Department of Public Works is responsible for clearing the surfaces of those inlets, and Pittsburgh Water is responsible to maintain and replace, if needed, the basins themselves. In 2026, In 2026, we enhanced our process for assessing the condition and location of these assets for purposes of prioritizing their replacement. We are using now a risk-based system, which was modified from national standards, which assesses both the physical condition of the basin to quantify the probability of failure, along with trying to quantify the consequence of failure by characterizing the location of the asset relative to the type of road it's located on and whether it serves a critical customer. So in the table on the left, the criteria for condition assessment for probability of failure includes but isn't limited to loose or missing bricks and whether the adjacent roadway has been impacted. When scoring a given asset, each of these conditions receive a score, and then that weighting is applied to calculate a weighted condition score. And then on the right, the criteria for consequence of failure include the type of roadway, such as tertiary, secondary, etc., and whether that basin serves a hospital, school, or other critical customer. So each asset is assigned one of those criteria on the right, which is then combined with the weighted condition score for a total numerical rating. And then we use that to prioritize the replacement of the assets. So I'm going to show some photos here. These 2 are both showing some failing inlets or basins prior to us replacing them. On the left is a curb inlet at 30th and Polona and Polish Hill. You can see the top of that basin has collapsed and a sinkhole has formed in the roadway. This replacement was completed just a week or so ago. And in the photo on the right, there was a collapsed inlet grate on Rialto Street, on Rialto Place near Rialto Street in Troy Hill, which was replaced in early May with a catch basin to replace that inlet. So a couple representative photos of work following our replacements, which includes, of course, the restoration of sidewalks and roadways. These are located respectively on Brighton Road in Marshall Shadeland on the left and on Smallman Street in the Strip District on the right. And then we have some before and after photos of the same location. So this is on Amberson and Elworth and Shadyside. On the left, you can see the roadway in front of this inlet had completely collapsed. And on the right, you can see that previous curb inlet has now been replaced with a modern style catch basin and grate. which helps prevent solids from entering our system better than the older open throat style. And finally, on this topic, another before and after photo along Baldwin Road in the Hayes neighborhood. In the before photo, and you can see that basin and inlet had collapsed, and the surrounding surface was also collapsed and compromised, and the curb is also missing. So all of that has been remedied, as shown in the after photo on the right. So I'm going to move on now to our water reliability plan, and specifically I'm going to focus on our ABC project. So during July, we did make significant progress on that project, which is the Aspinwall Pump Station, Brecken Pump Station, and Clearwell Bypass. So at the Aspinwall Pump Station, construction of the masonry walls for the new chemical building continued, as shown in the photo on the left. And to orient you, the river is generally behind the photographer, and the Clearwell is behind the structure that you're seeing. At the existing Aspinwall Pump Station itself, lead abatement activities on the existing steel beams commenced, and structural steel reinforcement for the new electrical rooms was delivered. Installation of primary electrical duct bank on the south side of the Aspinwall Pump Station was also completed, and that's shown in the photo on the right. So this is facing the Clearwell. You've got Aspinwall Pump Station on the right, and the river would be on the left. Upcoming activities at Aspinwall Pump Station include installation of structural steel on the precast roof system on that chemical feed building on the left, along with continued electrical work throughout the site. For the Clearwell bypass portion of the project, Mascaro and their geotechnical subcontractor is continuing installation of the supportive excavation, aka SOE system, progressing from west to east along the Clearwell through the pile drilling and lagging installation, as shown in the photo on the left. Micropile installation also continued along that west-east run. Construction of that SOE wall is expected to continue toward the inlet gatehouse through the end of July. And then shown on the photo on the right is the construction of the overflow vault. This is at the far west end of the Clearwell, where the base slab, consisting of more than 120 cubic yards of concrete, was successfully placed and remains under cure, with wall placements anticipated in early August. And as of this morning, the rebar for those walls has already been erected. Upcoming activities for the Clearwell bypass include continuing SOE installation, micropile construction, and commencement of the overflow vault wall pours. And then lastly, for ABC, moving on to the replacement of the Brecken Pump Station with what will be the future Washington Boulevard Pump Station. Mascaro and their geotech sub continued excavation operations, including installation of SOE wall piles, heavy excavation, and lagging outside the zone with asbestos-containing materials, as shown in both of these photos. Within the asbestos zone, Mascaro's environmental subcontractor continued bulk excavation and utility relocation activities as conditions allowed. Completion of final sanitary sewer and water line installations is anticipated by late this month, and excavation activities will continue through August, with electrical duct bank installations scheduled to begin after that. Moving on to a brief update on our lead service line replacement program. This map shows the neighborhoods where we are actively replacing lead service lines, whether through our neighborhood lead service line contract shown in green, or our small diameter water line replacement contract shown in blue. It's probably a little hard to see in the back. A total of 15,683 public and 12,069 private side lead service lines have been replaced through yesterday. And we currently have 11 active construction contracts involving lead service line replacements. And these are a combination of small diameter water main replacement, neighborhood, and urgent lead contracts. And that work does include the verification to verify the service line material, the lead service line replacement itself, water main replacements, and restoration of pavement and landscaping. We do not currently have any construction or engineering contracts out for bid at this time. That concludes my report. I'll turn it over for any questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions?
Rachel, how is it that the work that's done on the basins is identified? Is it is there a process for identifying them or?
Yes, it's a good question. So we have a backlog of roughly 800 to 900 basins that have been identified as needing addressed. And these are found through a combination of sources. So often it'll come from our own operations department as they're out cleaning the basin, and they'll identify, hey, there's a structural issue. We need someone to take a look at this. And it also does come from external sources, including but not limited to the city. Of course, the own city, they're out cleaning, the surface, so they may identify customers. It could come from really any number of sources. Thank you.
I wanted to touch on that as well. So if someone reports a catch basin to 311 through the city, that will come over to you?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, it would make its way to us.
That's wonderful. And this is something I put a lot of thought into because with my dual role as board member and city council member, I know that the move toward a more modern graded catch basin is helpful for everybody because, as you said, less solids get into the line and there's less of a need for vacuuming the lines out. That said, that requires more maintenance as these catch basin grates are covered with debris, especially after storms or before storms, and with more frequent and intense storms, occurring now, more important to be able to maintain those. So, I just wanted to say that, for the public that's listening, that there's an acknowledgement that that's the city's responsibility, and the city does need to continue to figure out a new strategy to keep up with the maintenance of the clearing of debris of these newer systems that they didn't always have to, think about or consider prior. And I look forward to that conversation moving forward that I know will be happening between me and members of Pittsburgh Water and members of the city's administration to ensure that that's happening. So we don't see cases of overland flooding really damaging houses or property or anything like that.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I had a related question, Rachel, which is just for the structural issues in the inlets and catch basins, how often is it also a street issue, right? Like if the street itself is deteriorating and needing repair, or there have been layers of paving that have blocked the inlet or over time have prevented water from reaching that inlet?
That's a good question, and I can get back to you. I'll make a note for next month to bring that. And in the meantime, the prevalence on that, I think it does happen pretty often. I don't want to speculate a percentage of time where the road and or the paving has impacted. But to your point, the photo that I showed of the after, it was a before or after, I can't remember, in the strip district in particular, I think it was an after photo. That was one in particular where structurally it was okay, but the throat, it was an open throat type and the throat had been severely restricted. I didn't show a before photo of that, but to your point, that was an exact example. So that does happen. So when the city comes and paves, if they don't, necessarily mill and overlay first, then that throat gets restricted. Okay. So I can check with the team on how often, that happens and try to provide some better data on that, but it does become an issue. And then the roadway impacts in our criteria include whether the roadway has sunk or formed a sinkhole. But we also do look at whether the open throat has been restricted. And then we replace those generally with the graded style to Councilwoman Strasburger's point, so that we are trying to prevent solids from getting into our system as required by the DEP.
Okay. That's really helpful, and the numbers would be helpful as well. And I also just building on Councilwoman Strasburger's point that generally speaking, we are taking on responsibility for making those right and putting in inlets that are appropriate, even in situations where there's sort of a blended responsibility. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Thanks.
We are also having a lot of internal discussions about that subject and that balance of the work.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a little in the weeds, but following on the clearing thing, I call it mulch season. Everybody spreads mulch, city and private people. Then I just watched catch basin grates get clogged up on Liberty Avenue. So maybe a place to start there. Plastic bottles are deadly too. But I'm wondering, what.
Plastic bottles are terrible. Sorry.
Yeah,
Just thought I'd throw that in.
but we can add that to the list of why we should fill up our water bottles with Pittsburgh water.
Yes. Precisely.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, the even more in the weeds, we got a lot of bike lanes now. So I just wondering how that kind of factors into things like, on one hand, with the lanes sort of closed to vehicular traffic, that might extend the lifetime of any replacement there. Maybe it makes the replacement a little easier because traffic's already sort of excluded partially from there. I know it probably really doesn't affect the priority system, but where rubber hits the road, does that have any?
It does have an effect. Yeah, to your point, we do have to ensure that we are using grades that are bike friendly and they are designated as such. So when we install new ones, we are installing them to make sure that they're bike friendly. So that combined with the desire to or the need to prevent solids from coming into our catch basin, that makes an interesting analysis of how many different types of catch basins can you install. There's not a huge number of options, especially given what DEP will approve, but that is a factor, definitely.
Yeah, there's one on Liberty and Winebittle. That's every time you turn the corner, especially in a truck, you can't turn into the opposing lane. So the passenger side rear wheel drops into that catch basin all the time, shortening its lifetime. So
Okay, well, send me
replacements.
Liberty, if you
To
can,
replace the shocks on my truck.
we can look into that. Which Liberty and which?
Liberty and Winebittle.
Okay, we can check and see if that's on our list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One question about the last map you showed. It looked like from the board metrics that you all are like on or ahead of schedule for lead service line replacements. So congratulations on that, I think. And then curious on the small diameter water line replacement schedule for the year. How's that going against your projected timelines?
Small diameter is going well. We this year started, we're always in a continuous cycle. So we're wrapping up several contracts, small diameter contracts, and we also started several contracts this year. So this year we started our 2025 A1, A2, B1, and B2, and those are well underway. Those were shown on the map. So in particular, the contract in Elliott and the West End is well underway. The others have been a little bit slower to start up, but they're going, I think, pretty well against what we had predicted in our budget and our cash flow. So every month our PMs are updating the schedules and thus adjusting the projected cash flows. So we're doing pretty well. As Ed noted, we are on a track to spend so far more than we have ever.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe one more comment on that, as being somebody who lives in the Bloomfield area and is actively seeing that water line work in there. I mean, it's wonderful to see the work being done. I think we've had conversations over the last few months about how can we highlight what that work is and make it obvious to those who are driving by and maybe can't go down Ellis Street that day or something like that. I don't know, like how that kind of signage or like kind of notification for people who are in the neighborhood of what the work is kind of designated for, what the vision is for that. But I think it's just great to see the work happening, and I hope that Pittsburgh Water could get as much recognition as possible for the work that it's doing.
Thanks. Yeah. So our public affairs department this year has increased our public outreach. We've worked with them and regarding a lot of our projects, especially small diameter. So we're holding more community meetings ahead of the projects to try to explain these are the impacts that you're going to see. This is the difficulty you might experience. We do also now have project signs. I'm not sure exactly if they've been hung in Bloomfield, but project signs explaining what the project is, with even a QR code that'll take you to our website. So those are a couple of things that Public Affairs has been doing to improve our communications. And then for road closures, of course, the contractors do need to follow the DOMI standards, and we do our best to stay on top of them to make sure that they do that, to make sure that the proper signage is installed. But thank you for the comments.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, I'll be on the lookout for the signs. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you, Rachel.
thank you.
Frank Sederi, Chief Operations and Environmental Compliance Officer.
All right, good morning. I have some slides, so this morning, I wanted to share with you some information. Let me see if I can get us to go forward. There we go. On how we maintain some of our water quality in our distribution system. The water that we distribute to our customers is all, of course, produced at our water treatment plant, and it's distributed through over 900 miles of water pipes throughout our service area. Help monitor water quality in the distribution system. We comply with regulatory requirements that are established under the revised total coliform rule, or you might hear it be the RTCR. Under this rule, we have developed a water quality sampling plan, which has identified monitoring locations across our service area. Our water quality team has established 6 different sampling routes, which they follow to efficiently collect samples from all of these monitoring locations each month. The different colored lines up there kind of show the different 6 different paths that they may follow or routes that they may follow, and the dots represent areas where we collect samples. Those sample sites have been selected to represent some of the most distal points in each one of our pressure districts, and are also locations that we can readily access, such as some dedicated sampling taps, police or fire stations, or various public establishments. This next graphic here shows our distribution system color-coded to those different pressure districts that we serve that I just mentioned. The small black dots here are a little harder to see, but those are those same different sampling locations that we hit on those routes. And as you can see, they're distributed across each one of those different colored pressure districts. Because of our system size, Pittsburgh Water is required to collect at least 210 samples from these locations every month. And our water quality team targets collection of 225 locations monthly, just to make sure we're above that actual required minimum. We target those locations, and in doing so, our chemists utilize a standard procedure to flush each one of those sample taps to make sure that we're collecting water that's actually representative of the distribution system. And in doing so, we collect a sample to monitor for coliform bacteria, which we actually bring back to our lab at the water treatment plant and analyze those samples in-house. And in the field, we monitor chlorine residual, which is our disinfectant, pH, temperature, as well as orthophosphate, which is used for our corrosion control program. In June, we produced an average of 62.5 million gallons of drinking water per day at our treatment plant. And we continue to meet and exceed those regulatory requirements that we need to follow, which include those 225 samples that we collect from the distribution system, as well as over 2,100 additional samples that our laboratory runs at the treatment plant and in other locations each month in June. I'm going to turn to fire hydrants next. Fire hydrants in our system not only provide service, of course, for fire protection, but do have an important role in maintaining water quality in our distribution system. This map's pretty busy, but I think it's a good illustration that Pittsburgh Water maintains over 7,500 active public fire hydrants, and these color-coded dots represent those different pressure districts that you saw before. So each one of those dots is a hydrant that we have. The different colors, again, might be coming from our Highland 2 reservoir, or the Garfield tank, or Heron Hill reservoir, depending on which pressure district it's actually located in. One of the tasks of our valve and hydrant specialists, which are a union position within our field operations, is to actually perform routine hydrant inspections. And we strive to get to every location, every hydrant, at least once every 3 years. And in doing so, we want to confirm proper operation of the hydrant as well as the hydrant valve. They flush the hydrant to help remove sediment. They measure flow and pressure at those hydrants, as well as maintaining the hydrant itself. They apply some grease to the nozzles and things like that so that they don't rust shut and can be opened easily and actually turned. Those valve and hydrant specialists and our crews also perform hydrant repairs if needed, or hydrant replacements. And we also complete fire flow tests that may be required for a developer or a contractor doing some work in the area so they can confirm available fire flows where they're doing their work. To help maintain water quality, we also, though, use our hydrants for system flushing. Spot flushing, as kind of show here, allows us to flow that hydrant and temporarily move water through the distribution system to help flush out accumulated sediment in the pipes, and also to help draw fresh water through those pipes to that hydrant. When spot flushing specifically for water quality, the hydrant will remain open at a low flow rate to continually flush the system. In the picture here, you can see that this hydrant's actually in a very nice location, but we'll run it very slow like that. It'll drop on the grass or along a curb line, and that again is allowing that water to be drawn through. Once they do flush the hydrants, on the side there's a little field instruments that we use to help check the chlorine as well as the pH in the water. And so our chemists are out there monitoring water quality as we're doing that flushing. This week, we've actually had 7 hydrants open and flowing in different parts of our system for the purpose of water quality flushing. And those will be shut off once that water quality flushing program is completed. Another flushing method that we use, and you may see in some locations, are what's known as automatic flushers. Automatic flushers may look like those little red boxes that you see attached there to the hydrant. And they could direct discharge onto the street, as you see in the one location. But often if we're setting these automatic flushers up for extended periods of time, we'll attach a hose to them and extend the hose to a catch basin for discharge. These automatic flushers are set up with little timers in them so that they can be programmed to turn on and off. Instead of running nonstop, they may turn on and run for a couple hours a day and shut off. And we're also able to turn them on and off at certain times. So often we try to do this automatic flushing during daylight hours so that they're not turning on and off in the evenings or nights or something like that, especially if they're in a residential area themselves. More information on our hydrant flushing program is available on our website. We currently actually have a banner that's posted. And this is actually a shot from yesterday of what that banner looks like, helping to notify our customers and making them aware of the water quality hydrant flushing program that we currently have in place. And they can click on that, learn more on the banners, and it'll bring them to this hydrant page, as you see here. There's a little video and as well as additional facts down below about why we hydrant flush and what they may see there. That is it for the hydrants and the slides. I did want to provide a quick update on the side of our environmental compliance department. In the last month, the month of June, we completed over 320 compliance inspections of our storage tanks, our various waste handling and storage areas, our air obligations, as well as some of our wastewater and stormwater facilities. June also was the end of the second quarter. So second quarter as well as semi-annual. It's hard to believe we're halfway through the year already. But that does trigger for our compliance group multiple quarterly as well as semi-annual reports that we need to file. So one of these is our storage tank status report on a consent order that we have, as well as our MPDS discharge monitoring report. That's for stormwater discharge associated with our with our water treatment plant. Our Elcasan self-monitoring compliance report, which we have for discharges to Elcasan from our water treatment plant, and then air quality reports that we have for our water treatment plant, generators that we have at our Brecken pump station, as well as now new one, our generator that we have up at the Highland Reservoir pump station. So that concludes my report for this month. If there's questions on the operations or environmental compliance, happy to answer those. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Any questions?
Thanks, Frank. I had a discussion with Will a month or so ago about fire hydrants, and I understand there's coordination with the fire department to ensure that the hydrants are in working order and that conversation is going to continue.
Yes. Yeah, we certainly do there. If we do hear something from a fire department that they, have operated a hydrant and have trouble, that often can get reported into our field operations group and they'll take a look at it. And also with the flushing that we've had ongoing, we've notified through our emergency management coordinator, the city, to let them know that, hey, a hydrant's running, leave it running, or if you need it, let us know. So yeah, we do try to coordinate with the fire department on the hydrants and welcome that input. Again, like the catch basins, there's a lot of them. So we're not at all of them every day. So yeah, if we see a hydrant that's not working, it's great for the fire department to help report that into us. So. Okay. Another question?
Frank, there are a lot of folks who work outside, both for Pittsburgh Water and the contractors. Can you say what impacts, if any, the recent air quality problems had on your operations?
Yeah, certainly. So, so we were following the air quality alerts that were being issued primarily last week. I think hopefully it's been clear out here mainly through the weekend and this week. But that is something that our safety department follows. We do have access to the air quality app that the EPA has that kind of predicts and indicates what those particulate ranges are. So that is part of our safety program internally. Usually once we reach the orange level, which is kind of the begin of the elevated concern, our safety department will reach out to our operations managers, the folks that are primarily outside, make them aware of it. So at an orange level, it's really just folks that have that, maybe an underlying health concern that needs to take measures. As we move into red and magenta and purple, those get, progressively a little more concerning. We did have the highest level, I think it was the magenta colors where that's at. And at that point, we do restrict or ask that we don't have any strenuous outside work occurring except unless it's an emergency in nature. So during that last week, we did have a couple of times where we scaled back some of our non-emergency work. We may have still had some folks out, like if they need to, drive their car, like a plumber, for instance, that's changing a meter in a house. They may have still been working because they weren't necessarily working outside doing strenuous activities. It was get into the house and the basement and do their work. But in general, if we were out doing an optional, dig in the street, that type of work was restricted to make sure we were paying attention to those. And it was really kind of a daily update that our safety department was following, keeping our ops team up to date. On the construction side, not to speak for Rachel's group, but I did see in a few cases, the contractors all have their own health and safety plan. And I think a lot of those were defaulted to and followed. And I at least know at the water plant, there was some restriction of contractor work that I saw that was made as a decision with the engineering construction managers and the contractors that were working, depending on what their health and safety plan was. But I did see some curtailment of work, certainly, at least at the treatment plant. So, yep.
Thanks, Frank.
Yep.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, thank you.
Will Pickering, CEO.
All right. Well, good morning, Chair Lumber, members of the board and the public. We're mixing it up a little bit today with my reports. I'm going to have some slides. Promise this will be the last light dimming we'll be doing of the meeting. And let's hope I can also work out the clicker. So as you can see on the slide, want to use this opportunity to provide an update to the board and the public on all of the efforts to Megan's earlier questions about what we're doing to engage our customers in our community. We'll start with the Pittsburgh Drinks Tap campaign. You may recognize some of these faces up here. We launched it right along the Allegheny River on May 1st, and we've continued that momentum to encourage people not to drink those single-use plastic water bottles that end up in our catch basin, but instead have the confidence to drink our tap water. The campaign has driven a lot of activity to our website, and if you follow our social media channels, you will have seen that we're continuing to churn out that messaging. I'm really excited. The last bullet may be hard to read for some in the room, but we are going to kick off blind taste tests where we are going to offer residents the opportunity to see if they prefer tap water or bottled, or maybe they don't know the difference, and we'll share those results, especially if they're positive and in our favor. It was my idea, so if it blows up in our face, you know who to blame. With respect to improved construction communications, Rachel spoke earlier in her report on our updates. One area of focus early in the construction season was our small diameter sewer rehabilitation projects, and specifically the sewer lining. You can see the photo there are a few of our contractors working to line a sewer to provide it another 40 or so years of life. But those sewer lining projects do have varying levels of disruption for customers. We heard from residents, particularly in the Troy Hill neighborhood, that they were smelling some of the chemicals that are used in that process, and it provided us an opportunity to reassess all of the construction communications protocols. So we have updated our messaging. We have expanded the number of messages, as well as looking not just at those customers directly tied to the sewer we're working on, but casting a wider net for all of the neighbors that may catch literal wind of the work, but may not be tied to the main. That was an important lesson we learned. And you can see here that we are utilizing door hangers in addition to construction signage on site to explain what we are doing. And there's a fantastic explainer video on our website for those projects. We have been very busy attending community meetings. In the photo, we've got Holly Bomba from our public affairs team and our state senator, Senator Williams, looking at the jars that we bring to community events, explaining how we treat our drinking water. So we just from April to mid-July, we've attended 22 community outreach events. Our HR team partnering with public affairs has attended 9 workforce development events, and then 2 professional development engagements as well. The list of neighborhoods, I won't go through them all, but they reflect areas where we have active work. I'm looking for Bloomfield for you there, Megan, and I do not see it, so that might be on the schedule to make sure that we're engaging with each of the neighborhoods where we have scheduled and planned work. So we are refreshing the community group engagement in advance of our projects so that everyone is informed in advance when possible of our activities. We held our first stormwater stakeholder meeting. We've spoken about stormwater over the years, but this was an engagement that was actually committed to as part of our Public Utility Commission rate case settlement. We held that in May, and I believe I know we had at least one board member attend. We appreciate that support. This was an opportunity for us to discuss ongoing projects and the future direction of our stormwater programs and projects. There were approximately 40 interested advocates included in that discussion, and we will have a second meeting this year in the fall. Also wanted to draw attention to a new program that we have partnered with both the City of Pittsburgh, the Department of City Planning, and the nonprofit water group Water Now Alliance. It's called Rain Reclaim, and the general concept is to take advantage of vacant parcels and repurpose them for stormwater management. So there are 2 potential sites that are coming out of this effort. I will say this effort supported by a grant from Water Now Alliance, and the team is now evaluating locations and determining next steps for potential inclusion in future capital improvement plans. So an exciting potential case of us utilizing available space, turning it into a public benefit, and aligning with our mission to manage stormwater. With respect to digital engagement, I mentioned social media. The team is constantly churning out content. The high level takeaway here is that we are getting great engagement, especially with our email communications. Those open rates of well over 30% are very high. We have learned from experts that benchmark marketing emails. So the people who are subscribed to our emails and newsletters are generally opening them and engaging with them. We're also gaining followers on most of our platforms, which is great to see as well. I don't know if the slight decline on X, formerly known as Twitter, is our fault. That might be something else going on there. So that wraps up my remarks on the community engagement updates. I want to thank Chair Leber for reminding me that we don't necessarily talk about these initiatives as part of my update. So I was happy to do that. I'll flip on the lights. I did want to wrap up my remarks this morning. For those who were not aware, we lost a great one in Paul Legger earlier this month. Paul was a lifetime public servant. He served on the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority Board from 2014 to 2021, with 3 years, the end of his term, being as chair of the board. And, for those who are around, that was a really pivotal time in Pittsburgh Water and its transformation to the professional, mission-driven utility, highly regulated utility that we all are lucky to be involved in today. And really thinking about this is sitting here, whether we know it at all, we're all sort of products of Paul's legacy and leadership during that period of time. I just want to call out a couple examples of Paul's leadership and what it's meant to the organization. He was firmly committed to public ownership and operation of this utility, and he took that position at a time when there was a lot of highly influential people pressing for this utility to be acquired by a private operator. But Paul was steadfast And I know that, he was heartened later on after his tenure on the board, that the public ownership and operation of the utility has been codified in the home rule charter of the city of Pittsburgh. That was something he felt very strongly about and wasn't necessarily a popular position at that time. Paul also, for those of you who knew him, he wasn't afraid to challenge people. And he challenged us to develop a really ambitious and progressive for its time customer assistance program. These are offerings now that we have come to know and are relatively routine. But again, at the time that we had these discussions, municipal authorities and municipal utilities really weren't offering bill assistance to low-income customers. But Paul challenged us to create those programs, not just to create them for PR sake, but to ensure that we had processes in place to make it easy for people to take advantage of those programs. There was an active insistence on making sure that that got done, and it was radical for its time. And that was a tremendous legacy he leaves behind. Rachel touched on our progress on the lead service line replacement program. Over 15,000 public lead service lines replaced. During the time of Paul's tenure, there was a lot of debate about what we do with lead in general. Are we going to replace all of the lead service line, or do we just do the public side? Do we make customers pay a portion of that work? The full breadth of options on the table. And Paul was very insistent that we do right by our customers and make the program as inclusive and effective as possible. Even in the light of regulations that didn't necessarily make sense, he wanted to make sure that the program that we move forward focused on public health and that we did the right things by our customers. More than anything else, Paul cared about people. He cared about the people in our region, the people impacted by our work, certainly the employees at Pittsburgh Water who worked for us 24/7. And he wasn't afraid of calling out when he thought we were falling short. And that was an admired trait. He kept us on our toes, and he would act upon it. And he would hear from advocates and residents. He would meet with them directly and would hear them out. Which actually had a tremendous impact on the transparent and engaged organization that we lead today. On a personal note, like many on our team, Paul saw potential in me that I probably didn't see in myself. And I'm tremendously grateful and probably didn't thank him enough while he was here for that. Changed my life, changed the life of so many. Like many of us who knew Paul, will miss his sharp wit, sometimes at the expense of me, which I enjoy. I learned to enjoy his playful giggle sometimes when he would lob those over, his willingness to call out bullshit. He did not hesitate to do that in very trying times. That was so essential for us, and just his commitment to standing up for what's right. So thank you for the opportunity for me to reflect on Paul's legacy to Pittsburgh Water, and I'll turn it over to you, BJ.
Very nice. Thanks, Will. I'm going to add to that I had the honor of being Paul's friend for over 40 years, and he was truly one of the good guys. I'm really glad that he was in my life. Professionally, Paul had a number of positions, and he seemed to have trouble retiring. The joke was that Paul had retired 3 or 4 times, and then when another position came up to serve the community, he would take it. So I was hired by Mayor Bob O'Connor to be the chief of staff and did not have experience in city government. The first call I made to Paul, he was retired, and as soon as he heard my voice, he said, "I'm in." So he came to work with me as a finance director for the city, and he was an amazing partner, an amazing supporter, and I learned an awful lot from him. I would add, just in terms of Pittsburgh Water, my husband Jeff and I had dinner probably about 3 or 4 months ago with Paul and his husband Mario, and it became pretty clear as we sat down to dinner that the first item on the agenda was a report on Pittsburgh Water. So I did us all proud, and I told him what was going on and how well the organization was moving forward. So just to echo Will's point, in some degree, Paul has had a significant impact on all of us sitting here today and all of our ratepayers, and that will be a part of his huge legacy. So we miss him.
Thank you, Chair Lever. Well, I think I really first met Paul when he invited me to lunch. He didn't buy, but it was still a good lunch. The first probably official moment I had in this building was sitting in Bob Weimer's office with Paul, and within 60 seconds, I was issued a GSD hat. And I learned just through watching Paul and working with the Weimer team, on which Bill was a key member and later became the Will team, exactly what GSD meant. And it kind of, through Paul and the team's efforts, got transformed to SGD, and Get became Got. And I think there's probably no better way to sort of reflect on Paul and those two teams' legacy just by listening to the reports today. There's a chief engineering officer. Ed has restructured the debt here. Frank and his people are scrambling all over the city to keep an eye on the chlorine numbers. It's really been quite remarkable. Will captured Paul really well. I'll probably never forget the rogue operation meeting. It was one joke I made to Paul was, I only saw you get mad, really mad twice, and that was one of them. And but in all, it was kind of like working with a neurosurgeon. He was like super focused, very organized. But every now and then, like I get in the OR, just to drop the tension, humor would suddenly spill out, and it was sometimes unexpected. So as far as the hat goes, if you're going west on I-80 just before the Brookville exit, it's in the Brookville water treatment plant. Like the works here, it was built in the typhoid, cholera, and about 100 years later it was rebuilt. So I kind of told Paul I was going to go up there, talk to those folks, see what they're doing in their membrane filtration plant. And after the chief operator showed me around, I offered him the hat, and it still sits there on a shelf. So not only in Pittsburgh can you see the impact of Paul and the subsequent teams that came from his effort, but as you go west on I-80, look up the river a mile, and there's a little bit of Paul and PWSA sitting there as well. So thank you for the opportunity to make a few remarks here.
Would anybody else like to say anything?
Well, I can't say that mine is in the Brookville area water treatment plant, but I did also get gifted a GSD hat from Paul as soon as I joined the board. And after, I'll say, Governor Shapiro borrowed, not stole, the term for his own work, because he is getting stuff done. Had the opportunity to give him my hat. So the governor now has a GSD hat with a Pittsburgh Water PGH2O logo on it. But as it relates to Paul, I can't underscore everything enough that's already been said about him. I'll just also add that one of his legacies, and something that he was laser focused on in the midst of so much happening throughout the whole authority, was our supplier diversity, in addition to customer assistance. So really looking out for people, right? Ensuring that those who were minority women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and might be just trying to get a foothold into the industry and do business with Pittsburgh Water, really had an opportunity, and that we were not just meeting but exceeding our goals in that regard. It's something he brought up almost every meeting, and I appreciate his focus on that in addition to the customer assistance program. So wanted to mention that as well. We will certainly miss him, and he's left quite a legacy here and other places.
Okay, moving on. Resolution number 50, Ed Barca. Try and follow that, Ed.
It's a tall task, that's for sure. Resolution number 50 of 2026, approving the resolutions to borrow and to be reimbursed for Penvest Award number 71516 for the 2026 and 2027 large diameter sewer rehabilitation and 2026 through 2028 small diameter sewer rehabilitation projects. And just to give a flavor of context to this, back in April, Penvest had awarded Pittsburgh Water about a $54 million loan for those projects that I just mentioned. And in total, through all of those projects, we're projected to rehab about 42 miles of sewer lines. So I just want to give some context to that.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to. Second.
Any discussion?
I don't know if this is the right time to mention it, but in that context, looking at, further in the board report about special revenues that have been acquired.
Mhm.
And I just want to say it's a very impressive list, including all of the Penvest dollars that come in, loans and grants, but all kinds of sources. And that's what I think we should expect to keep happening as we go forward with all the work that the authority is doing. So thanks for the good work to date.
No problem. Over $1 billion in Penvest since 2018. Just putting it out there.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Resolution number 51, Rachel Beam.
Resolution 51, approving an amendment of a professional services agreement for construction management and construction inspection services for the 2024 Neighborhood Lead Service Line Replacement Contract B to AECom Technical Services, capital budget $300,750.87. This change order is needed due to the construction contract extending longer than originally anticipated, thus requiring additional CMCI services. Additional time was needed in this contract due in part to pilot the electronic resistance technology, aka ERT or swordfish technology, and in part because of the contractor taking longer than anticipated to complete restoration activities.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Thanks.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Resolution passes.
Resolution 52, approving a change order of a capital contract for construction of the 2025 valve replacement contract to Mealy & Mealy & Sons, capital budget $988,000. This change order is needed to provide funding to complete additional valve replacements that have been identified as requiring replacement in the near future. Sites to be addressed include, but may not be limited to, the replacement of one 24-inch and three 36-inch gate valves in the north side. And the actual sites able to be addressed will be determined based on actual costs.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Rachel, this one is on valve replacement. This is one of the ones on the kind of trends report is where the valve replacement is a little bit behind what you had projected at the beginning of the year. Is there any relationship between this and the this additional funding required, and the on like how fast the work is getting done?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we have issued 18 individual sites so far to the contractor, and each site may include multiple valves. To your point, we have closed out only 3 of them, but we do anticipate completing the remainder of the 15 in this period. They're running a little bit behind. I don't recall off the top of my head if there are specific reasons for that, but we do anticipate finishing out the original 15. These additional ones were added, as they often are, as a result of capital work that we're trying to accomplish. So we need to, in order to get something done for a capital project, we need to get a valve closed, and then we find that the valve, can't be closed or isn't operable, and it's larger than what our operations folks can take on, which is generally how valves get added to this contract. So that's what's happening here. This is a cluster of valves in the north side, as well as a few other valves nearby in Chateau that we're going to also try to replace. So not probably not exactly related, but hopefully that answers the question.
No, that does it. So it represents just an additional scope because of the requirement identified by capital.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution passes. Our final resolution.
Resolution 53, approving the award of a capital contract for construction of the 2026 small diameter sewer rehabilitation project to Independent Enterprises. Capital budget $3,141,821.
Do we have a motion? Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment, as we close the meeting, there's been quite a bit of conversation about the level of activity in our community. And I just want to assure all of our ratepayers and the public that we understand that, and we are doing the best job we can to coordinate with other utilities, to coordinate with the city, and to get the word out to our customers. I had the opportunity in the last couple of weeks to attend a virtual Highland Park meeting about the lead line process, and then a meeting in Lawrenceville about just the amount of construction and some of the concerns. And this was for all of the utilities. And I do want to give a shout out to Rebecca Zito. Is she still here? I don't think so, but she represented us at both of those meetings and did an excellent job of sincerely listening and responding to concerns. And I think it's a good idea for all of us who are involved to do what we can to attend some of those meetings, because you do really get a sense of, we know that all of this is going to a very good place, but it really is disruptive for people's lives. And so there's an appreciation of that. And so I would ask everybody to try and do that when you can, and also to make sure that people know that we've been very aggressive about putting resources out there, door hangs with QR codes, and encouraging people to call the customer service line. So if somebody approaches you knowing you're involved with Pittsburgh Water and has questions, please make sure that they know all the resources that we've made available to them. And thanks, Will, to you and the team for making that a priority. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.